In India in 2024, we sold 43 lakh cars. That's no joke. But what is even more interesting is the fact that 60% of those cars, or 25.8 lakh, were sub 4 meters. And that has created a very interesting phenomena in the sub 4 meter segment that will divide it, allowing manufacturers like Skoda to capture niches within a niche. And speaking about niches within a niche, let me introduce the car I'm here to review, the Skoda Kylaq. Now, this one is set to be the driver's car of the segment. It has a whole lot of India 2.0, India focused Skoda in it. It is perhaps the most important car for the Skoda portfolio since the Kylaq back in 2020 when it launched. This, however, debuts Skoda's new design philosophy, modern, solid. It has all the looks, it has everything under the hood. So let's not waste any more time and jump straight into our review. This is the Skoda Kylaq. You're watching AutoToday. My name is Dipayan and this is our review. Now, before we jump into our review and tell you what this car is like to drive and the chassis that underpins it and this motor, let's talk a little bit about the design, which is modern solids, which is Skoda's newest design language globally. And that is something that reflects very, very much in the Kylaq. And people who say that it looks like a baby Kylaq need to really get a look of this car in the flesh. In photos, it does seem to share the same silhouette, but when you see it in the flesh, you can tell just how different these two cars are. One of the things I really like is this slim DRL and the pattern and the inlay in it, which really stands out. You have bumper mounted headlamps, a nice piano finish on the grille, and of course, the ruggedness comes from this plastic insert into the bumper that runs along the side to remind you that the Kylaq is, after all, an SUV. Now, before we step to the side, one of the things that I really like is the detail work on the bonnet, especially in the metal. This four sort of air scoop and of course these two muscular sinews that run along it really add to the character and add to the visual appeal of the Kylaq from the moment it enters the frame. But let's jump to the side and tell you really what has come of the MQB AOIN platform that underpins this, the Kylaq and the Slavia. Now, there is a lot of metalwork on the side that again adds to the muscularness of the Kylaq, like the shoulder line that runs along the side and then curves upwards near the C-pillar. It adds again to the bulk, the squat haunches. It does add some character. Of course, you have this 2560mm wheelbase, which means that the wheels are pushed to the corners of the car. It is the second largest wheelbase of the segment, but it should mean that there's a whole lot of space on the inside. Of course, you get these really cool design for the alloy wheels, which are 17-inch and shod in Goodyear tires. But now let's step to the back and see how this design form really plays out at the back of the Kylaq. Now, relative to the otherwise very sharp front end, the rear end of the Kylaq does bring in some rounded edges and some curvy lines. Things I do like though are the wraparound LED tail lights, this little plastic insert that runs along from one side to the other. I like the fact that there aren't connected headlamps or tail lamps on either end. It does make the Skoda Kylaq stand apart from the rest of the competition. Another thing I really like is this line that runs along the metal that adds a whole lot of character to the rear end instead of it just being flat. I like the fact that the rear glass is also at an angle, so it should give you a really nice field of view from the inside. But underneath this, you have a 446-litre class-leading boot. There are so much more to talk about in this, but we'll get to that later. I do like bumper, although I do wish that this half of it was body-colored. That would have added to the size and the visual impact of the rear a little bit more. But I do like the rugged look that it gives. So now one of those things that really set the Kylaq apart from the competition is the smart way that things are integrated. Now, we've all been in a situation where we have the parcel tray, we've overloaded the luggage and then we don't know what to do with it. Skoda have thought of that too. There is a little insert right here that should fit the parcel tray perfectly when you're not using it. It's such a neat inclusion, and it shows you that slightly smarter thinking that Skoda have done with the Kylaq that really set it apart. Now though, let's step on the inside and tell you what the cabin is like and what those smart features are that set the Skoda apart from the rest of the competition. Now, on the inside of the new Skoda Kylaq, you're going to see a whole lot of new textures and colors that Skoda are using to set themselves apart from the competition, and that has worked really well. I love this off-white stone-like inlay on the dash, offset by this green insert. Of course, you have a 10.25-inch touchscreen infotainment system with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay and a whole lot of built-in apps. You also have an 8-inch digital instrument cluster. But what I really like is this two-spoke wheel, which looks really modern, and in this automatic variant gets paddle shifters as well. And the features don't end there. Both front seats are ventilated, and you get 6-way adjust for both front seats, power adjust, which is really cool. The only one thing that I don't like, and I know it's going to be a problem in the manual, it's not so much of a problem in the automatic, are these touchscreen AC controls right here, because when you shift in the manual, it does tend to touch. It's something that has been a problem in the Kylaq, but it's not that much of a deal breaker. Again, you have the smart, simply clever bits, as Skoda calls it, like this bottle holder which has a grip at the bottom, so when you open your bottle you don't really have to use both hands, and you can open it because there's a grip at the bottom. Overall, it is a very nice place to be. It feels modern, it feels premium, and it never feels like a sub 4 meter compromise in any way, and I think that is what sets the cabin of the Kylaq apart. But again, if you're riding in the back seat, are you really going to see the benefits of that 2560mm wheelbase? Let's hop in the back and see. Now I'm sitting in the second row of the Kylaq, and the first thing that is apparent to me is just how low the floorboard is, which really gives you a lot of space for your legs. Even though the seat back and the front is set to my driving position, I still have an arguably sufficient amount of legroom, and it doesn't really feel claustrophobic. There is still a lot of headroom, and I like the fact that the backrest comes all the way up here, and it feels like a car and a place that you can sit for a long time. It is all black though on the interiors, and the door cards do have some hard plastic, but Skoda have done enough with the textures by inlaying these green bits and of course this indented kind of texture over here that really adds to the character. You do get again smart features like this little phone holder that for you to keep your phone, Type-C chargers, an armrest with 2 cup holders, and place for your bottles in the door as well. Another really smart thing that I don't know whether a lot of people are going to be talking about are these lights in the cabin that are angled towards the passengers. So when you turn on the lights in the back, you don't really upset the driver or the co-passenger, but you still have light for light reading or whatever you really need to see in the back seat without really offsetting the light in the cabin totally. And it's these small little intuitive bits that will set the Kylaq apart when you look at it from the back seat or the front seat or anywhere in the cabin. Now though, it is on to the interesting bit, the thing that is supposed to set the Kylaq apart, and that's driving. So let's hop in the driver's seat and tell you what it's like to drive. Now the Kylaq does come with a 6-speed torque converter automatic, but we'll give you the extended driver's review once we get into the manual. But as far as the fact that it offers an automatic torque converter in this segment, I think is something that will set it apart. Of course, the torque converter isn't as nice as the manual. There is a considerable amount of lag that you feel between the gears. But that said, it is definitely miles ahead of any AMT or CVT that is offered in this segment, and that is something that should immediately set it apart. There are also paddle shifters on the automatic which make it much more engaging to drive when you want to drive it sportily. But the rest we'll tell you once we're in the manual version. So let's hop from the automatic to the manual. Now, I know we didn't give you much of a driving impression of the automatic version of the Kylaq, but that's because this is a driver's car and I think it'll be best enjoyed in manual, although most of you are probably going to buy the automatic anyway. But let's run through the specs of the manual version of the Kylaq very quickly. For now, there's one engine on offer, 1 litre turbocharged, makes 114 bhp and 178 Nm of torque. And with this manual gearbox, it's paired with a 6-speed manual with a dogleg reverse. Now, like all Skodas, like the Kylaq if you've driven it, or for that matter the Slavia, this is a very, very nice car to drive, especially with the manual gearbox. The throws of the gearbox are nice and short, and the gates are clear and very easy to use. Additionally, the clutch is a little heavy, as we've seen often on Skoda cars, but it's not something that you don't get used to. I spent about a year driving the manual Kylaq, and towards the end of it, I barely noticed the fact that the clutch was slightly heavier. But I think where Skoda have really won out with the Kylaq and how it performs is in the way they've tuned the suspension. Whether it's sharp bumps, whether it is off-road and bad roads, whether it is smooth roads, and even undulations, the Kylaq manages to catch most of it in its stride without really upsetting the car. And that is saying something. Is this probably sets the benchmark in terms of ride and handling as far as the sub 4 meter segment goes. Now, there are a few things that are slightly annoying, like the fact that the touchscreen climate control system often gets touched when you're using the manual. This is not so much of a problem in the automatic, but yes, in the manual it is a little bit of a problem. The brakes are really good. You get all 4 brakes on all 4 wheels, which is great. I like the fact that Skoda have left out the FAF when it comes to the Kylaq. There are no driving modes. It is what you get, and it is exactly how you drive it right from the start, which is, as far as I'm concerned, from a driver's perspective, from a driver's perspective, it is definitely the way to go. There is no ADAS, there is no intervention. It is all about you and the driver's seat, and I think that is something that is so very special. Now, in terms of safety, you do get 6 airbags, the standard ABS, EBD, the standard suite of safety features that make a car safe to drive and easy to drive. Skoda have got you covered, but there isn't the ADAS, which we've already mentioned. Overall, it is a very, very nice car to drive, and as Skoda have said before this, it is definitely going to be the car that sets the benchmark for the driver's car in this segment. And that was our review of the Skoda Kylaq. As always, if you like this video, smash that like button because it means so much to us. And of course, if you haven't yet subscribed to the AutoToday channel, this is your chance to do that now. Now, speaking of the Kylaq, prices are out and prices start at 7.90 lakh ex-showroom for the base classic variant and going up all the way to 14.40 lakh for this one, which is the Prestige Automatic. And what I think stands out with the Kylaq is that it is a car that offers almost no compromises and comes in under the 15 lakh rupee mark with great interiors, great drivability, and a very strong price position, something that Skoda have not really had in this country to date. I think the Kylaq is going to be a runaway success, especially among those people who value the things that Skoda stand for. And I think that is what is going to make this car carve that niche out for itself, exactly what Skoda had intended for it, and be the runaway success that Skoda needed in the Indian market to make serious landfall. Thank you so much for watching. This is DD signing off.